Imagine this. You're in the middle of an argument, your emotions are high, and you have the perfect comeback ready to fire. But just as you're about to speak, you pause. You take a deep breath, and instead of responding, you choose silence. At that moment, you don't lose power, you gain it. Silence is often misunderstood. People associate it with weakness, with having nothing to say, or with avoiding confrontation. But in reality, silence is one of the most powerful tools we have. It can prevent unnecessary conflict, protect our peace, and give us control over situations where words would only make things worse. Think about the times you've spoken out of anger and regretted it later, or the moments when someone was venting and all they needed was for you to listen, not respond. Or those situations where speaking wouldn't change a thing, yet you felt the urge to fill the silence. Words are powerful, but so is knowing when not to use them. Today, let's talk about the 9 moments in life where silence isn't just an option. It's the best choice you can make. When emotions run high and anger takes over, the instinctive reaction is to respond immediately. The urge to defend, retaliate, or express frustration becomes overwhelming, but this is precisely when silence is the most powerful tool at your disposal. Anger is a fleeting emotion, yet its consequences can be lasting. Words spoken in a moment of fury can wound deeply, fracture relationships, and lead to regret. Remaining silent in moments of anger is not a sign of weakness, but a display of strength, wisdom, and self-control. When we are angry, our minds are clouded by emotion, and our ability to think rationally diminishes. The words we choose in these moments are often not carefully considered. They are fueled by frustration and the need to express our displeasure. This can lead to misunderstandings, escalating conflicts, and even irreparable damage to relationships. By choosing silence, we create space between the emotion and the response. This pause allows us to regain composure, assess the situation with clarity, and decide whether speaking will add value or only make matters worse. Silence in moments of anger is also a form of self-preservation. Engaging in heated arguments can drain energy, increase stress, and negatively impact mental well-being. When we engage in verbal battles, our bodies respond with increased heart rate, tension, and the release of stress hormones. Over time, repeated exposure to such emotional turmoil can take a toll on our health. Choosing silence helps to de-escalate the situation, protect our peace, and maintain control over our emotions rather than allowing them to control us. Furthermore, staying silent when angry prevents us from saying things we cannot take back. Words have immense power. They can heal or destroy. A single sentence spoken in rage can leave scars that linger long after the moment has passed. Apologies may be offered, but the damage is often already done. Many relationships, both personal and professional, have suffered because of words spoken in anger. When we hold our tongue, we prevent unnecessary hurt and preserve the integrity of our interactions. Silence also fosters reflection. When we refrain from immediate reaction, we give ourselves the opportunity to examine why we feel the way we do. Is our anger justified, or are we reacting out of ego? Are we upset because of the situation at hand, or is it a deeper issue that needs to be addressed? Taking a moment to process these questions before speaking allows for more thoughtful and effective communication. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can respond with clarity, making our words more impactful. In addition, silence in the face of anger can be a powerful strategy in conflict resolution. When one person chooses not to engage in an argument, it often diffuses the tension. Instead of fueling the fire, silence can signal a willingness to listen, creating space for a more constructive conversation. It can prevent situations from escalating into full-blown conflicts and open the door for dialogue once emotions have settled. In many cases, the other person may also calm down when they see that their anger is not being met with more hostility. Beyond personal relationships, the ability to remain silent in anger is a crucial skill in professional settings. Workplaces are filled with challenges, differing opinions, and conflicts of interest. Reacting emotionally in these environments can harm reputations, damage opportunities, and create unnecessary tension. A well-timed silence can demonstrate professionalism, maturity, and the ability to handle pressure with grace. Those who can control their emotions in difficult situations earn respect and are seen as reliable and composed. Mastering the art of silence when angry requires patience and practice. It involves recognizing the initial surge of emotion and consciously deciding to pause before reacting. Breathing deeply, stepping away from the situation, or simply counting to 10 can be effective techniques to prevent impulsive responses. Over time, this practice strengthens emotional intelligence and improves our ability to navigate conflicts with wisdom rather than impulse. Silence is often misunderstood as avoidance or submission, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful forms of control. Choosing not to engage in a heated moment is a conscious decision to protect one's peace, maintain dignity, and prevent unnecessary harm. It is a sign of emotional strength, proving that true power lies not in the ability to speak louder, but in knowing when to remain silent. Speaking without having full information is one of the most common mistakes people make in conversations, arguments, and decision-making. It is easy to assume, speculate, or offer opinions based on incomplete knowledge, but doing so often leads to misunderstandings, misinformation, and loss of credibility. Silence in such situations is a mark of wisdom. It allows us to gather facts, analyze the situation properly, and avoid saying something that could later prove to be incorrect or misleading. In a world where information spreads rapidly, choosing to stay silent until we have the full picture is a sign of responsibility and intelligence. When people speak without complete knowledge, they risk spreading false or misleading information. This is particularly dangerous in sensitive situations where accuracy is crucial. Whether discussing news, workplace matters, or personal conflicts, misinformation can create unnecessary panic, confusion, or even harm. Many problems arise simply because someone speaks based on assumption rather than fact. When a person chooses silence instead, they allow themselves the opportunity to verify the truth before contributing to the discussion. This approach prevents unnecessary errors and ensures that when they do speak, their words hold more value and credibility. Silence in the absence of full information also protects one's reputation. People who frequently speak without knowing all the details often appear unreliable or impulsive. In professional settings, for example, making statements without proper knowledge can lead to a loss of trust from colleagues, superiors, or clients. An employee who rushes to give an answer without verifying facts may damage business relationships or make costly mistakes. Similarly, in personal relationships, assuming details without confirmation can lead to unnecessary conflicts. When someone wrongly accuses another person or spreads unverified claims, it damages trust. Staying silent until all facts are known helps maintain credibility and ensures that one's words carry weight when they do choose to speak. In high-pressure situations, the temptation to speak quickly is even stronger. People often feel the need to fill silence, offer opinions, or show that they are knowledgeable. However, speaking without all the facts can lead to regret. A single incorrect statement can have lasting consequences. In legal matters, for example, lawyers advise clients to remain silent until they fully understand the situation, because anything said can be used against them. In everyday life, the same principle applies. Silence gives a person time to think, evaluate, and avoid statements that might backfire later. Moreover, remaining silent until we have all the necessary information helps in making better decisions. Acting or responding based on partial knowledge increases the chances of making poor choices. Whether in business, leadership, or personal matters, successful individuals are those who take the time to gather data before speaking or acting. Wise leaders understand the power of silence and observation. They listen carefully, ask questions, and collect insights before giving their opinion. This habit not only makes their words more impactful, but also helps them navigate situations with greater wisdom. Another important aspect of choosing silence in the absence of full information is avoiding unnecessary conflicts. Many arguments escalate because people react impulsively without knowing the full story. Someone might overhear a partial conversation and jump to conclusions, leading to anger and resentment. A person might receive incomplete details about an issue and respond defensively, only to realize later that they misunderstood the situation. Silence allows time for clarity. Instead of reacting immediately, taking a moment to gather more information can prevent misunderstandings and promote healthy communication. In the digital age, where information is easily accessible but not always accurate, the ability to remain silent until facts are confirmed is more important than ever. Social media, for instance, is filled with rumors, half-truths, and misinformation. Many people share or comment on posts without verifying their accuracy, contributing to the spread of false narratives. This can have serious consequences, influencing public opinion, damaging reputations, or even inciting unnecessary panic. Those who practice restraint, fact-checking before speaking or sharing information, contribute to a more informed and responsible society. Silence also provides an opportunity to listen and learn. Instead of rushing to speak, staying quiet allows a person to absorb more details, ask thoughtful questions, and gain a deeper understanding of the topic. This not only improves knowledge, but also enhances communication skills. People who listen more and speak only when necessary are often perceived as wise and thoughtful. Their words carry more significance because they are not speaking just for the sake of being heard, but to genuinely contribute something meaningful. Choosing to remain silent when lacking full information is not about avoiding conversation, but about ensuring that words are used effectively. It is about resisting the urge to fill silence with assumptions, and instead embracing the patience needed to seek clarity. In any situation, whether personal, professional, or social, taking the time to verify information before speaking leads to better decisions, stronger relationships, and a more trustworthy reputation. When someone is venting, they are not always looking for a response, a solution, or advice. They simply want to be heard, to release their emotions, and to express what is weighing on their mind. In these moments, silence is more valuable than words. It allows the person to feel acknowledged without interruption, judgment, or unsolicited opinions. Listening without speaking provides a safe space for them to express themselves freely, knowing that they are not being dismissed or argued with. People often underestimate the power of silence, but when someone is upset, frustrated, or overwhelmed, the act of being present and quietly listening can be one of the greatest forms of support. When a person vents, they are not always seeking logical solutions. In many cases, they already know what needs to be done or understand the situation they are in. What they need in that moment is emotional validation, not a list of corrective measures. Speaking too soon can make them feel unheard or that their emotions are being minimized. For example, if a friend is venting about a difficult day at work and someone immediately responds with advice on how to improve their situation, it might seem dismissive rather than helpful. Instead of feeling comforted, they might feel as though their emotions are being analyzed rather than acknowledged. By remaining silent, we allow them to work through their emotions in their own way, offering support without interference. Another reason to remain silent when someone is venting is to avoid escalating their frustration. Sometimes when people are upset, their emotions are raw and unfiltered. They may say things they do not fully mean or exaggerate certain aspects of their frustration. If someone interrupts them to correct them, question them, or challenge their feelings, it can lead to further agitation. For example, if a person is venting about an argument they had and someone immediately interjects with, "Are you sure that's what happened?" or "Maybe you're overreacting," it invalidates their emotions and can cause them to become even more upset. In these moments, silence is an act of respect, allowing them to process their thoughts without interference. Silence also creates a sense of trust. People who vent are often sharing something personal, something they may not feel comfortable expressing to just anyone. If they feel that the listener is truly present, offering their attention without interruption or judgment, they are more likely to open up. On the other hand, if someone interrupts too frequently, tries to fix the problem too soon, or dismisses their feelings, they may hesitate to share in the future. Silence reassures them that their words are safe and that they are not being rushed or dismissed. Being silent also helps in understanding the deeper emotions behind what is being said. Often, what people vent about is not the real issue. A person might complain about a minor inconvenience at work, but in reality, they are feeling unappreciated or overwhelmed. A person might vent about a single frustrating interaction, but the underlying problem could be years of built-up stress or unresolved emotions. If the listener remains silent and lets them speak freely, they may eventually uncover the deeper truth behind their frustration. Rushing to respond too quickly may prevent them from reaching that realization on their own. Silence does not mean disengagement. A silent listener is not indifferent or inattentive, but rather actively engaged in a different way. Their body language, facial expressions, and attentiveness communicate their presence. Nods, eye contact, and an occasional reassuring gesture can convey understanding far more effectively than words. Sometimes a simple "I understand" or "I'm here for you" at the right moment can be more powerful than a long response. There is also an important distinction between silence and withholding communication. Silence in this context does not mean ignoring someone or failing to engage in the conversation. Rather, it is a conscious decision to prioritize listening over speaking. It is about knowing that sometimes words are not needed, and that presence and attentiveness are more meaningful. When a person has finished venting, they will usually indicate what they need, whether it is advice, reassurance, or simply a change of topic. Until then, silence gives them the space to release their emotions without interference. In a world where everyone is eager to speak, to offer their opinions, and to provide solutions, the ability to remain silent and truly listen is rare. It requires patience, self-control, and an understanding that not every conversation needs a response. When someone vents, they are not always looking for answers. They are looking for connection. Silence allows them to express themselves fully, to feel understood, and to release what has been building inside them. More often than not, that is all they truly need. There are moments in life when words, instead of healing or helping, can cause unnecessary harm. Knowing when to remain silent, especially when words could hurt someone, is an essential skill that reflects emotional intelligence, maturity, and self-discipline. Words carry immense power. They can inspire, uplift, and bring people together, but they can also wound, divide, and leave lasting scars. Once spoken, they cannot be taken back, and the damage they cause can sometimes never be undone. Choosing silence when words have the potential to hurt someone is not about avoidance. It is about understanding the weight of what we say and using our voice responsibly. When emotions are high, there is a natural urge to speak impulsively, especially in arguments, conflicts, or moments of frustration. However, in these situations, it is easy to say things that are not entirely true or are exaggerated by emotion. People often lash out in anger or disappointment, only to regret their words later when the moment is past. A hurtful remark spoken in frustration might not reflect what a person truly feels, but the person on the receiving end may carry those words with them for a long time. Instead of responding immediately, remaining silent allows emotions to settle and prevents unnecessary pain. Silence can also be an act of kindness when someone is already vulnerable. When people make mistakes, experience failure, or face personal struggles, they are often already battling self-doubt and regret. Pointing out their flaws, criticizing them harshly, or reminding them of their shortcomings only adds to their suffering. Instead of using words that could deepen their pain, silence offers them space to process their emotions and recover. Sometimes the most supportive thing one can do is simply be present, without judgment or unnecessary commentary. In moments where honesty may cause harm rather than help, silence becomes a shield. While honesty is valuable, not everything needs to be spoken aloud, especially if it does not serve a meaningful purpose. For example, if someone is excited about a personal achievement that may not seem significant to others, dismissing it with a careless remark can diminish their happiness. If a person asks for an opinion on something subjective such as their appearance or creative work, and the opinion is unnecessarily harsh, withholding hurtful words is sometimes the better choice. There is a fine line between constructive criticism and needless negativity, and silence helps navigate that boundary with care. Social situations also provide many instances where remaining silent prevents unnecessary harm. Gossiping, spreading rumors, or sharing personal details about someone without their consent can damage reputations and relationships. People often speak without considering the long-term effects of their words, but once something is said, it can travel far beyond what was intended. Choosing silence in these moments is not just about avoiding conflict, it is about upholding integrity and respecting others. A moment of restraint can prevent misunderstandings, broken friendships, and unnecessary drama. There are also times when a person is already dealing with consequences or personal struggles, and adding verbal criticism serves no purpose. If someone has made a mistake that they are clearly aware of, there is little to gain from reinforcing their guilt with unnecessary comments. Silence in these cases can be a form of compassion. It allows people the dignity to recognize their own errors without feeling further humiliated. Instead of speaking words that could make the situation worse, offering quiet support or a reassuring presence can be far more meaningful. Remaining silent when words could hurt does not mean avoiding difficult conversations altogether. Some truths need to be spoken, even when they are uncomfortable. However, the timing, delivery, and intent behind those words matter. Speaking when emotions are calm, when the words are chosen carefully, and when the purpose is to help rather than harm, ensures that even difficult conversations remain constructive. There is a difference between speaking the truth with kindness and using the truth as a weapon, and silence often helps in discerning the right approach. In personal relationships, friendships, and family dynamics, knowing when to stay silent is crucial to maintaining harmony. Not every disagreement needs a verbal response, and not every negative thought needs to be expressed. Sometimes, silence allows relationships to breathe, preventing unnecessary conflicts over minor issues. Choosing not to speak in moments of frustration or irritation can prevent hurtful exchanges that may later be regretted. It gives people time to reflect and return to the conversation with a clearer, more understanding perspective. Even in professional environments, remaining silent when words could harm is an important skill. Harsh criticism, unnecessary negativity, or speaking without full consideration can create tension in workplaces. A single careless remark can damage professional relationships, lower morale, and create an unproductive atmosphere. Successful leaders and team members understand that not every thought needs to be voiced, and that silence, when used wisely, can be more powerful than words. Ultimately, choosing silence when words could hurt is a practice of mindfulness, kindness, and wisdom. It requires self-awareness and the ability to assess whether speaking will add value or simply cause harm. In a world where words are often used carelessly, the ability to remain silent in moments where speech could wound is a rare but valuable trait. It is not about suppressing one's thoughts or emotions, but about recognizing that some words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. Silence in these moments is not weakness. It is strength, consideration, and an act of grace. Negativity is everywhere. It exists in conversations, workplaces, social circles, and even within families. When surrounded by negative energy, whether in the form of complaints, gossip, criticism, or toxic discussions, the best response is often silence. Engaging with negativity only fuels it, giving it more space to grow and affect one's mindset. Choosing not to participate in negative conversations or arguments is an act of self-preservation. It is a way of maintaining inner peace, avoiding unnecessary conflicts, and refusing to be dragged into a cycle of toxicity. Silence, in this context, is not about ignoring reality, but about protecting one's mental and emotional well-being. When people engage in gossip or destructive conversations, silence becomes a powerful way to distance oneself from the negativity without causing confrontation. Gossiping, for example, often harms relationships and spreads misinformation. If someone speaks poorly about another person, responding or adding to the conversation only encourages the behavior. Even if the intention is not malicious, participating in gossip makes one complicit in spreading negativity. By choosing silence, a person removes themselves from the discussion without escalating tension. Others may notice the lack of response and eventually shift the conversation to something more meaningful or constructive. Negativity can also come in the form of constant complaints. Some people always find something to criticize about their job, their relationships, or life in general. While it is natural for everyone to vent occasionally, some individuals live in a state of continuous dissatisfaction. Engaging with their negativity can be exhausting. Offering solutions rarely helps because they are not looking for answers, they are looking for someone to validate their complaints. Responding can make one feel drained, frustrated, or even pulled into the same negative mindset. In such cases, silence is a way of setting boundaries. It sends a message that not every complaint requires a response, and that one is not willing to absorb the negativity being projected. Another form of negativity is unnecessary arguments. Some people seek conflict simply for the sake of it. They may provoke others with controversial opinions, create drama, or argue over trivial matters. Engaging with them only wastes energy and leads to frustration. Not every statement deserves a reaction, and not every argument needs to be won. Sometimes silence is the best answer because it denies the negative person the reaction they seek. When someone realizes that their attempts to provoke a response are met with silence, they often lose interest and move on. Work environments can be filled with negativity, especially when there is competition, stress, or workplace politics. Office gossip, complaints about management, or colleagues who constantly focus on problems rather than solutions can create a toxic atmosphere. Getting involved in such discussions can damage one's reputation, create unnecessary conflicts, or even lead to professional consequences. Remaining silent in these moments is a strategic choice. It allows a person to stay neutral, avoid unnecessary drama, and focus on their work instead of being caught up in negativity. Over time, this approach earns respect and builds a reputation for professionalism and maturity. Negativity is also prevalent on social media, where people argue over politics, personal beliefs, and controversial topics. Engaging in online arguments rarely leads to a productive outcome. People often post opinions not to have a meaningful discussion, but to provoke others or reinforce their own views. Responding to negativity online can consume time and energy, leading to frustration without any real resolution. Silence, in this case, is a form of self-discipline. It allows one to disengage from unproductive debates and focus on more meaningful interactions instead. Personal relationships can also be affected by negativity. Some individuals thrive on conflict, manipulation, or emotional games. Arguing with them often leads nowhere because they are not interested in resolution but in control. Silence can be a way to disarm their tactics. Instead of reacting emotionally, staying quiet denies them the satisfaction of pushing buttons or creating chaos. Over time, they may realize that their attempts to provoke a reaction are ineffective, leading them to change their behavior or focus their energy elsewhere. Silence in the face of negativity is not about weakness or passivity. It is a conscious decision to rise above unnecessary conflicts, toxic conversations, and destructive energy. It allows one to maintain emotional balance and focus on things that truly matter. When surrounded by negativity, responding is often a choice rather than a necessity. Choosing silence means refusing to be a part of negativity, maintaining personal integrity, and ensuring that one's energy is spent on things that uplift rather than drain. There are times when speaking does not change the outcome of a situation. In these moments, silence becomes a powerful tool, a sign of wisdom and restraint rather than inaction. Not every situation requires words, and not every problem can be solved through discussion. When speaking will not make a difference, remaining silent can prevent unnecessary frustration, wasted energy, and even conflict. Understanding when words will have no impact is an important skill that allows one to navigate difficult situations with grace and self-awareness. One common scenario where speaking changes nothing is when dealing with someone who refuses to listen. Some people have already made up their minds before a conversation even begins. They are not open to new perspectives, and no amount of reasoning or explanation will change their views. In these cases, arguing or trying to convince them is a waste of time. Whether in personal relationships, workplace discussions, or debates on social issues, some people are unwilling to consider alternative viewpoints. Engaging with them only leads to frustration because they are not interested in meaningful dialogue but in proving themselves right. Silence in these situations is an act of self-preservation. It prevents unnecessary stress and keeps the conversation from escalating into an unproductive argument. Another situation where silence is the best response is when emotions are running high. In the heat of an argument, people often say things they do not mean. If both sides are angry, speaking will only add fuel to the fire. No one is listening, and no real resolution is being reached. Instead of responding impulsively, remaining silent allows time for emotions to settle. Once both parties have calmed down, a more productive conversation can take place. Silence creates space for reflection and prevents words that may be regretted later. There are also moments when people expect a reaction, but giving them one only encourages negative behavior. Some individuals provoke others intentionally, seeking attention or emotional responses. Engaging with them only reinforces their behavior. If someone makes a rude comment, responding might only escalate the situation. If a person is trying to manipulate or guilt trip, reacting emotionally gives them control over the interaction. Silence in these cases is a form of strength. It sends a message that their words or actions do not have power over one's emotions. Over time, they may realize that their tactics are ineffective and move on. In professional settings, silence can be a strategic choice when speaking will not change the direction of a decision. Sometimes leaders or managers have already made up their minds, and no amount of discussion will alter their course. Employees may feel the urge to argue or resist, but in reality, their words will not impact the final decision. In these cases, silence can be more effective than pushing back unnecessarily. It allows one to observe, adapt, and choose a better time or method to address concerns. Similarly, when dealing with authority figures, such as law enforcement or supervisors, speaking out of frustration or defiance rarely leads to a positive outcome. Knowing when to remain silent can prevent unnecessary trouble and allow for a more strategic approach. Social media has made it easier for people to engage in debates that often lead nowhere. Many online arguments are not about finding the truth, but about proving a point or gaining validation. Responding to every negative comment or opinion that differs from one's own can become exhausting. Most people are not interested in changing their views through online discussions, and engaging with them only drains energy. Choosing silence in these moments is a way to protect one's peace. Instead of wasting time in endless debates, it allows focus on more meaningful interactions and productive conversations. Silence is also necessary when facing situations beyond one's control. Life presents challenges where words cannot change reality. When dealing with loss, disappointment, or unforeseen circumstances, talking about the problem repeatedly does not always help. Sometimes silence allows for acceptance. It creates space to process emotions without forcing a solution that does not exist. There are times when no words can provide comfort, and in those moments, silence is more powerful than anything that could be said. In personal relationships, silence can be a form of respect. When a loved one needs time to think or is struggling with a personal issue, pressing them for a conversation might not help. Some problems need to be worked through internally before they can be discussed. Giving someone the space to process their thoughts without forcing dialogue shows understanding and patience. Instead of pushing for immediate answers, silence allows the other person to speak when they are ready. Ultimately, knowing when words will not change a situation is a form of wisdom. It prevents unnecessary stress, avoids conflicts that lead nowhere, and helps conserve emotional energy. Speaking for the sake of speaking often leads to frustration, but silence, when used wisely, can be a powerful response. It is not about weakness or avoidance, but about recognizing when words are useless and when it is better to listen, observe, or simply let go. Silence is not just the absence of words. It is a tool, a strategy, and at times, the greatest display of wisdom. There are moments in life where speaking adds no value, where words can cause harm, escalate conflicts, or drain our energy. In these moments, silence is not weakness, it is strength. It allows us to listen when someone needs to be heard, to avoid unnecessary negativity, to maintain our dignity in heated situations, and to protect our inner peace. In a world that constantly pushes us to speak, to react, to defend, and to prove ourselves, the ability to remain silent when needed is a rare but powerful skill. It shows self-control, emotional intelligence, and an understanding that not everything requires a response. When used wisely, silence can build trust, strengthen relationships, and prevent mistakes that words might create. So the next time you find yourself in one of these situations, remember, you don't always have to respond, argue, or explain. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stay silent, because in that silence lies the power to protect your peace, your relationships, and your wisdom.